The forgotten Old Testament books. Let's start with the Old Testament books that didn't make it into most Bibles, but still shape how we think about ancient faith, angels, and the supernatural. Book of Enoch. The Book of Enoch is one of the most famous lost books. It describes a world where angels called the Watchers come down to earth, break God's rules, and teach humans forbidden secrets. These angels take human wives, and their children become giants called the Nephilim. Enoch tells how these fallen angels are punished and how demons came to exist. The book is full of wild visions of heaven, angels, and the end of the world. Enoch was very popular among early Jews and Christians, so much so that the New Testament Book of Jude quotes it directly. But church leaders later banned it, worried about its strange angel stories and its influence on people's beliefs. Today, the Book of Enoch is still considered scripture in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church, but most other Christian groups leave it out. Book of Jubilees. Jubilees is sometimes called the Little Genesis. It retells the stories of Genesis and Exodus, but with a twist. It uses a perfect 364-day calendar and adds new laws and details. Angels play a big role, and the book claims that all of history is divided into Jubilees of 49 years. Jubilees was popular among the Dead Sea Scrolls community and is still considered scripture in the Ethiopian Orthodox Church. But it was left out of most Bibles because its calendar and rules didn't match what church leaders wanted. It also adds stories about the patriarchs and their families that you won't find anywhere else. Book of Jasher. The Book of Jasher is a mysterious text actually mentioned in the Old Testament itself. See Joshua 10:13 and 2 Samuel 1:18. It claims to fill in the gaps of Genesis and Joshua, telling more about the lives of biblical heroes. Jasher describes details like Abraham smashing his father's idols and the childhood of Moses. While the original book is lost, later versions were written to try to fill the gap. Its mention in the Bible keeps people searching for the real thing, and some believe it holds secrets about the early days of humanity. Testament of the 12 Patriarchs. This book claims to record the dying words and prophecies of Jacob's 12 sons, the founders of Israel's tribes. Each patriarch gives advice, confesses sins, and predicts the future of his descendants. The book is full of moral lessons and warnings about jealousy, greed, and pride. It was popular in the early church, but its strange prophecies and hints of Christian ideas led to its exclusion from the official Bible. Some of its teachings about the Messiah and the end times are surprisingly close to what later Christians believed. Wisdom of Solomon and Sirach. These two books are part of the wisdom literature found in the Greek Septuagint, the ancient Greek translation of the Old Testament. The Wisdom of Solomon teaches about the value of wisdom, the dangers of idolatry, and the hope of life after death. Sirach, also called Ecclesiasticus, is a collection of wise sayings about friendship, family, and faith. Both books are still included in Catholic and Orthodox Bibles, but most Protestant Bibles leave them out, calling them apocrypha. They offer practical advice for daily living and deep reflections on God's justice and mercy. The Lost Gospels of the New Testament. The New Testament, we know, has 4 Gospels, but many more were written. These lost Gospels offer different views of Jesus, his followers, and the early church. Gospel of Thomas. The Gospel of Thomas is a collection of 114 sayings of Jesus, some familiar and some very strange. There are no stories about miracles or the cross, just teachings. One famous line, "The kingdom is within you and all around you." Some sayings sound like riddles or Zen koans. Thomas's gospel was considered dangerous because it taught that salvation comes from discovering secret knowledge, not from faith in Jesus' death and resurrection. Some early Christians loved it, but church leaders worried it would lead people away from the core message of the gospel. Gospel of Mary Magdalene. This gospel shows Mary Magdalene as Jesus' closest disciple, the one who truly understood his teachings. After Jesus' death, Mary comforts the other disciples and shares visions she received from him. Peter challenges her authority, but another disciple, Levi, defends her. The book suggests that Mary had a special role and that spiritual insight is more important than church hierarchy. This challenged the male leadership of the early church and raised questions about women's roles in Christian communities. Gospel of Judas. In this shocking gospel, Judas Iscariot is not the villain but the only disciple who truly understands Jesus. Jesus tells Judas that he will sacrifice the man that clothes me, meaning Judas's betrayal is part of a secret plan. The book teaches that the material world is a prison and that only a few have the knowledge to escape. This gospel was banned because it turned the story of betrayal upside down and taught Gnostic ideas about secret wisdom and the nature of God. Infancy, Gospel of Thomas. This book tells stories about Jesus as a child, performing miracles and sometimes acting in ways that seem strange or even harsh. He brings clay birds to life, strikes other children dead for insulting him, and then raises them again. These stories were popular in the early church, but were left out of the Bible because they didn't fit the image of a gentle, perfect Jesus. They show a side of Jesus that is powerful and mysterious, but also unpredictable. Acts of Peter, Acts of Paul, and Thecla. These books describe the adventures of the apostles after Jesus' resurrection. The Acts of Peter tells how Peter faced off against a magician named Simon Magus and was crucified upside down. The Acts of Paul and Thecla tells of a brave woman, Thecla, who becomes a Christian leader, survives wild beasts, and baptizes herself. These stories show a church full of miracles, danger, and unexpected heroes. They also reveal that early Christians were interested in stories about women leaders and dramatic acts of faith. Each gospel told a different story, and that's exactly what made them dangerous. The early church wanted unity, not confusion. Why were they removed? Why did these books disappear from the Bible? The answer is a mix of faith, fear, and politics. Church leaders wanted a single, unified message. Too many books meant too many interpretations, which could lead to division and confusion. By choosing which books to include, they could control what Christians believed and taught. Many of the banned books taught Gnostic ideas, secret knowledge, personal enlightenment, and the belief that the material world was evil. These teachings clashed with the church's message that salvation comes through Jesus' death and resurrection, not through hidden wisdom. Some books challenged accepted beliefs. The Gospel of Mary Magdalene gave a woman spiritual authority over men. The Gospel of Judas said betrayal was part of God's plan. Other books hinted at reincarnation, secret rituals, or different views of Jesus' nature. Church leaders saw these as threats to the faith. A unified Bible made it easier for church leaders to maintain control. If everyone read the same books, it was easier to enforce rules and settle arguments. The process of choosing the right books was as much about power as it was about truth. Church fathers like Irenaeus and Athanasius wrote against false gospels. Athanasius, in his Easter letter of 367 AD, listed the 27 books of the New Testament and warned against reading others. He called them an invention of heretics. The victors of history wrote the Bible as we know it. The rest were buried or banned. Rediscovery and modern impact. For centuries, these hidden books were lost, forgotten, or locked away. But in the 20th century, everything changed. Nag Hammadi Library. In 1945, Egyptian farmers digging near the town of Nag Hammadi found a jar filled with ancient books. These texts, written in Coptic, included the Gospel of Thomas, the Gospel of Philip, and many other Gnostic writings. Suddenly, scholars had access to lost Christian ideas that had been hidden for 1,600 years. Dead Sea Scrolls. In 1947, a shepherd boy found clay jars in a cave near Qumran by the Dead Sea. Inside were scrolls containing ancient Jewish texts, including copies of Old Testament books and writings like Jubilees and Enoch. These discoveries showed that early Judaism and Christianity were more diverse than anyone had imagined. Modern interest. Today, these books are widely available in bookstores and online. Documentaries, novels like The Da Vinci Code, and new translations have made them popular again. People are fascinated by the idea of lost wisdom and secret teachings. Some see these books as dangerous, while others see them as valuable windows into the past. Debates today. The rediscovery of these texts has sparked new debates about what is true, what is heresy, and who gets to decide. The question of what belongs in the Bible is still alive, and the search for truth continues. Some churches are re-examining these texts, while others warn against them. Scholars continue to study them, looking for clues about the earliest days of faith. Connection to today. These hidden books have inspired movies, novels, and even new religious movements. They challenge us to think about who gets to decide what is sacred and what is not. They remind us that history is written by the winners, but the stories that were buried or banned still have the power to challenge, inspire, and provoke us. The hidden books of the Bible remind us that history is full of mysteries, and that faith has always been more diverse and complicated than we might think. Whether you see them as dangerous heresy or lost treasures, these texts open a window into the wild, diverse world of ancient faith. If you enjoyed this exploration, please like, subscribe, and comment for more deep dives into the mysteries and secrets of the world's most influential book.